So there's a few reasons why most people's YouTube channels just do not grow in this day and age. But based on my 11-year experience running full-time YouTube channels with my wife, and basically we run a YouTube media company. So we run our own channels, we invest in other people's channels, we help other people's channels grow, and we help people run sustainable YouTube channels. We're not in the business of cash cow, automation, get them running, and then they just disappear in 6 months. That's not really what we're into. We're into long-lasting YouTube channels, because that's like, why would you create a business, which a YouTube channel is a business? Why would you create a business that's just gone in 6 months? You want to create a business that you can run for many, many years. And until you can prove that your YouTube channel is sustainable, you don't have a business. You just have a fun side hobby that is paying you an income temporarily. So one of the main reasons why, based on our experience, that your YouTube channel is possibly not growing without looking at it, based on lots of channels that we see, is probably down to a few things. The first one is usually the channel is not consistent with its uploading, which I'll talk about in a second, but consistent with the types of videos it's producing. You need to get really, really clear on your target audience in this day and age. Back in the day, YouTube wasn't quite as strict in terms of you could upload whatever the hell you wanted, and YouTube would just put it out there. We've had channels that upload a wide variety of different styles of content, and no matter what you uploaded, you'd still get the same amount of views. It's not like that anymore. YouTube lately, over the past sort of 2-3 years, YouTube have been favoring channels that are very, very niche and that are very, very clear about what they're providing. Now, this might change, but right now, if I'm starting a YouTube channel, if I was going to be advising anyone on what to do if they were starting out on YouTube right now, or if their channel isn't working, would be, are you very, very clear about what your YouTube channel is? Now, if you have, let's just say, a channel that talks about cars, or you're a mechanic and you talk about doing up cars, that's great, but you need to have an extra layer or two on top of that in order to stand out on YouTube nowadays. Now, the extra layer on top of that could be your personality. You could just be really good on camera, you could have a funny voice, or you could just have something different, bring something different to that industry that a lot of people don't have. And an extra layer on top of that could potentially be, you work on a very particular type of car. It could be you go to the scrapyard and you get, cars for next to nothing, and then you bring them up to speed and then you sell them. Whatever it may be, you have to bring an extra layer or two to your general content that you didn't have to bring back in the day. So take a look at your channel and see if you, whether the channel is very clear about what exactly you're doing. Is it, I just run an AI channel, or I run a history channel? Okay, well, that's great, and that would have worked, and it's just, what you're doing isn't necessarily bad, but you need to add an extra layer or two on top of that probably. And that could even be the editing style. You could have a really interesting, different, unique editing style. That's an extra layer. And then if you add an extra layer on top of that, you increase your chances of YouTube pushing out your content and being unique. Being unique on YouTube isn't necessarily a fast track ticket to becoming successful, but it does go a long way in this day and age. Again, reiterating in this day and age, because it didn't used to be like that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, usually you're probably just not uploading enough content. And we see this very, very often. People will send us their channels and they'll say, why is my channel not growing? And they haven't uploaded in 2 months. And it's just not gonna work. There's a handful of channel styles that you can get away with uploading less frequently, such as big budget stuff, documentary kind of things. You can get away with uploading once a month and still grow a really, really strong YouTube channel. But if you're doing what the majority of YouTubers do, and you're just in a kind of, any other space other than high production content, you need to be uploading once per week. It's just as simple as that. And if you miss a week or two here or there, that's not going to damage the channel too much, But if you're missing, if every month you're missing 1 or 2 weeks, it's just not going to work. You know, I use the analogy of like going to the gym. If you're going to the gym, who's gonna make the most progress in the gym? The person who goes to the gym twice a week or 3 times per week, or the person who goes to the gym once a month? You know, it's just obvious who's going to make the progress. And that's not to say that you need to upload a ton of content. I don't subscribe to the idea of, oh, you're only uploading once per week. You need to be uploading 5 shorts a day, and you need to be uploading a long format 3 times a week. It's just not true. And people who tell you that are trying to make YouTube seem harder than it is so that you think they have more knowledge than they actually do. You just need to upload video every single week. I can give you thousands of examples. I can give you many examples of our own channels that upload once per week and they earn $10,000+ a month just in YouTube ad revenue. And they have 300,000 subs, 400, 500, 600, 700,000 subs. You don't need any more than 1 video per week, no shorts, in order to grow a YouTube channel. So that's like the bare minimum you need to get by, and that's all you need to be doing in the beginning. Okay, so it is a new day. I had to cut that video short, and I'm now picking it back up again. So I'm wearing different clothes, and I'm driving instead of being packed up. Now, with that being said, something that we see a lot, and that's why I'm including upload frequency in this video, because it's so important. And you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I know it's important. You know it's important, but you're still not doing it. The path to YouTube success, often the simplest path, which is coming up with a really good niche like we talked about earlier, and just uploading on a regular basis. And that's kind of it. Sure, there's lots of little things in between, but the bulk of it is that. It's like running a business, right? Come up with something good, sell it to people. That's it. You know, there's loads in between, but that is the general overview of a business. So, something that we see a lot, and something that you need to ask yourself if this is what you do, is, and this is so common, is people will start out on YouTube, they'll upload a load of videos, they'll be on a high, and they'll be like, I'm gonna do this, and then they'll stop, and they won't upload for a few weeks or a few months, whatever it may be, and then they'll jump back on again. And when they jump back on again with this new vigor, they are looking for ways to improve because they think it didn't work when they first started. So we will often get on calls with these people and help them out, and there is almost nothing we can say to them apart from, well, you need to just keep uploading again, because you were on a roll. YouTube may have been doing its magic and then you stopped. So we can tell you, yeah, you can improve this, you can improve that. Yes, you know, you could be saying this better. Yeah, you could possibly improve your lighting, or, you know, you can be just dialing in your video content slightly or a lot, depending on who it is. However, if you're not uploading on a regular basis, it's impossible to know whether or not the things we're telling you is going to work. And it's impossible for you to have feedback on whether or not what you're doing is working, because you're not doing it on a regular basis. So, like I said, we see this a lot, and we get on a lot of calls, and we help out a lot of people who are in this trap of, I've uploaded for a few months, now I've fallen off the wagon, I'm getting back on the wagon, but now I feel like I need help to make it worthwhile. But you don't need help, you just need to upload on a regular basis. And then after 6 to 12 months of consistent uploading, 1 per week at a minimum, then if it's not working, then you can start looking for help. You know, it's like, I'm going to use the working out analogy again. It's like going up to a personal trainer and saying you're not getting any results, and they say, well, when did you last work out? And you tell them it was 6 months ago. Well, the first thing they're going to do is just say, well, you need to just start putting some work in. You know, so until you're consistent for 6 to 12 months, and that's a general length of time. You know, every channel and every person is going to be different, but because we are talking to you, you know, directly here to lots of people who are going to be watching this video, it's impossible for us to say an exact duration. Some of the channels that we run ourselves, if we're starting a fresh channel, we will say we'll try it for 3 months, because we think that if it doesn't work within 3 months, then it's probably never going to work. Some that's 6 months, some that's 12 months. But generally, anything over 12 months, if it's still not working, in this day and age on YouTube, it probably needs a tweak. So that's why we always say if you're not uploading consistently for 6 to 12 months, don't even think about changing anything, because the only thing you need to change is the fact that you haven't figured out a way to upload on a regular basis, and that is once per week. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't say I'm going to do 3 a week and then just fall off after a few weeks and then go back to just 1. Just, if you can upload 2 or 3 times a week, just upload once a week, and then you've got a couple of weeks a month extra videos that you can then use if you do happen to fall behind on uploading. So, and then once that starts to work, once you have a proven method and you're getting views and you're getting validation that what you're talking about is interesting to people and it works, and there's lots of different markers for that too, by the way. It's not just in terms of viewers, it's also in terms of, are you know, if you're running a channel and you're getting leads, are you getting decent leads? Are you getting good engagement? You know, all those kinds of things. If that is the case, then you can start thinking about ramping up your upload schedule in order to scale whatever it is you're doing. But you don't do that until you've proven that once a week can work. Now, going back to that, there is lots of evidence and lots of people nowadays are saying like 2 or 3 times a week is the sweet spot in terms of growth. And sure, in terms of growth, that might be true, but for the vast majority of people, they're not able to commit to a 2 to 3 weekly upload schedule, so there's no point in them even trying. It's like me saying, you know, if you work friggin' 16 hours a day for 7 days a week, you're going to be able to grow a 7-figure business. Okay, well that's great, and someone could give you the entire roadmap on how to do that, but if you can't successfully fulfill that, then what's the point? You're just going to burn yourself out after a month and realize you can't do it, and then you're just back to square one. If anything, you're further back than square one, because now you feel like it doesn't work and you've lost confidence. So yes, 2 to 3 can work and grow your channel faster than once a week, but for the beginning, until you start to get that confirmation, just upload once a week, and then as soon as you see those signs, you can start ramping up to twice a week or 3 times a week or whatever it may be. YouTube, like I said, is you decide the schedule, but as long as you stick to what historically works, which is once a week, you can do what you want after that works. And in all seriousness, in a nutshell, that's pretty much the 2 most common reasons for why people's YouTube channels don't grow. And just to quickly reiterate them before I leave, is your channel clearly defined? The more clearer your channel is, and the more unique in the sense of the niche is so tight that there's still an audience there. You know, you can come up with something completely wacky that no one's ever done before, but that means no one's ever done it, which means you have no market research to prove whether or not it can work. And sure, it can still work, but it's harder going into something like that when you don't have validation from other people to say that it works, to see that it works, because there might be no audience there. So if you have a niche that isn't crazy tight, but is still tight enough that gives you an edge, and then you combine that with an upload schedule that is just the OG upload schedule on YouTube, which is once per week, you do that for 6 to 12 months, and then you come back and tell me it's not working. And if it's not working in 6 to 12 months, then we can start digging in and finding out why. But until you've done those 2 things, then you have no reason to believe your YouTube channel is not working. So forget everything you know about anything and everything, and all of the information that you've consumed on tips and tricks and settings and all this other stuff, and do not even think about applying that until you've reassessed your niche, you've made it crystal clear what you're doing and what your channel is about and who you're trying to cater for, even if that's just for yourself, and then nail your upload schedule. Be ridiculously disciplined with your weekly uploads, and then tell me it doesn't work. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you on the next one. Keep creating, and yeah, you got this.